KHQ Kingston. On your radio at 920 AM and 92.5 FM. And also online at mykcr.org.
Hi, I'm Kelsey Grammer. Wounded Warrior Project supports injured veterans by connecting them with fellow warriors, by serving them through mental health and wellness programs, and by empowering them to live on their own terms. No one should face a battle alone. Join us at woundedwarriorproject.org.
Long ago, you wouldn't think of galloping on a horse while doing calligraphy, and you wouldn't have attempted to ride your bike while typing a letter. Yet you think you can safely operate a multi-ton vehicle while texting? Behind the wheel is no place to multitask. If you want to BRB, drive now and text later. Lives depend on it.
Visit StopTextStopWrecks.org, a message brought to you by the National Highway Traffic Safety Administration, Project Yellow Light, Noise, and the Ad Council.
On top of first-class care, you will never receive a bill. The only thing we had to worry about was just keeping Azalea comfortable. St. Jude saved her life.
Finding cures, saving children. Learn more at stjude.org.
Hi, I'm Steve Thomas for Habitat for Humanity Restore. Habitat Restores are nonprofit home improvement stores and donation centers that sell new and gently used furniture, building materials, and appliances to the public at a fraction of the retail cost. The Ulster County Restore at 406 Route 28 in Kingston needs your donations. Call our hotline at 845-853-7499 to schedule your free pickup. And thanks.
Hi, this is Jared Mans from the Spring Lake Fire Department, and I support Kingston Community Radio, and so should you.
This portion of Kingston Community Radio is brought to you by Ulster Savings Bank. Visit their newest branch, conveniently located at the Ulster Commons Plaza in Lake Katrine. Experience the difference that local community banking offers with the convenience of another great location, easy access, plenty of parking, and a 24-hour ATM. Ulster Savings Bank, invested in community, invested in you. Member FDIC.
180 on that one.
All right, well, I guess Happy Halloween is in store because Sunday is Halloween, so happy Halloween, guys.
Today's Halloween.
Whoa.
Wow, that's loud.
Yeah. Well, good morning, everyone.
Good morning.
Good morning. Mario Catalano, you Reynolds here today.
Our intern is working on the sound system.
You're good.
And this is our pre-election program. We've been excited about this. We want to discuss, and we are open to discussing any race that you wish to discuss with us. We've got some thoughts about this election. We have some interesting, there's some very, very interesting dynamics as we are seeing them out in the hinterlands, and we want to share those with you, and we want you to share your thoughts with us. So we're at 331-9255. This is Kingston Community Radio. Happy Halloween and happy Election Day.
Why don't we start off with something uplifting? Hope for the hopeless, I would call it, Mario. Typically, I downgrade write-ins, particularly candidates who can't get on the ballot and then write in, and minor party candidates. But you have some news from out west that might change that opinion.
Yeah, this is perhaps one of the most astounding situations I have ever seen in politics, and we've both been around for a while. So we're going to take this. We're going to take the group today out to Buffalo, and very interestingly, the mayor of Buffalo for 4 terms has been a gentleman by the name of Byron Brown, also the former state Democratic chairman. This guy was untouchable in the elections.
Couldn't be touched.
Couldn't lay a glove on him, and he was taken out in similar fashion to AOC and Giamatti, whoever.
Dave Donaldson.
Somebody's got, Dave Donaldson. He was taken out by a Democratic socialist in in a primary.
June.
Yep. By the name, her name is India Walton. So she's got the Dem line. Byron has no lines. He
has no hope.
Yeah, no hope. He's a write-in candidate.
A write-in even
running in the city of Buffalo, hundreds of thousands of people.
Yeah, and he refused the Republican nomination.
Absolutely, untouched. That was it. So he's a write-in candidate, and every major Dem in the state, who every one of them absolutely fearful of the Democratic Socialists, have lined up behind India. Gillibrand has endorsed her. Schumer has endorsed her. Letitia James has endorsed her. Everybody and their uncle has endorsed
an aunt.
India Walton. And
what's the result so far?
Well, so a poll, yeah. I mean, as of Wednesday, I believe the latest poll shows India with essentially no opponent, with 36%, and her write-in opponent at 54%. He's whipping her by 18 points, and and he, I mean, this is going to be a race to watch, because my interpretation of this is that the mainstream Democratic Party has just about had it with these Democratic Socialists. That's what I'm saying. I'm saying, you get to a primary, the socialists they can get their small cadre of voters enthused. We're going to go out. We're going to take out this old guy. We're going to do this. We're going to do that. But now comes general election. All of a sudden, these people realize, holy moly, we're going to get stuck with India Walton. Oh no, that's not happening. And so they come out of the wood. You got people that, thank God his name is Brown, because if it was some Polish name, because there are a lot of Poles.
Buffalo.
Yeah. I mean, it would be a disaster. But most folks can just write in Brown, and I think the guy's going to win. I mean,
right now he's winning.
Yeah, and I don't see India having a hell of a lot of momentum, and that's in spite of the fact that every one of these Dems they are terrified of these Democratic Socialists. When I tell you terrified, they are terrified.
I think the Democratic Socialists are the Working Families Party on speed.
Well, we watched this happen some years back with on the Republican side too.
Tea Party?
With the Tea Party.
Yeah.
And where have they gone? I mean, they've essentially imploded. People started figuring out they were a little cuckoo as well, and they moved back to the center. Traditionally, in this country, people are very comfortable in the center. You can be a little left of center, you can be a little right of center, but people are very comfortable with their politicians being somewhere in the center. Now, you got some outlier, you got some areas, like crazy San Francisco where, anything goes, and, some of those situations. But generally speaking, the folks, the electorate, I think, when push comes to shove. Now, how does that translate into? Let's talk about two local races. You've got Alderman Hirsch. I think he's taking a call. You have Alderman Hirsch, who's running, and she's got a write-in candidate.
Yeah.
And you
a
have
guy named Danny. At least mention his name.
Yeah, and then you have you also have the situation with the three-way race where Donaldson was knocked off by a socialist. And before you answer, we have a call. So, good morning, caller.
Yes, good morning, gentlemen. The show's off to such a great start, and I just found what you're talking about such an interesting point, and I had a question. Just regarding primaries, and like in Buffalo, and on both sides of the aisle, do you think primaries are going to even out at some point? Because it seems like they tend to, if there's extreme politics going on either side,
good point. Yeah.
the primary, like in this example, Buffalo, results in maybe the more extreme candidate getting the main, ticket nomination. And then for the general election, that appeals to more general folks. They don't have a candidate that really would resonate with more general folks, and I think this write-in is so interesting. And I just think it's just interesting how, not many people vote in a primary compared to the general election, it seems to me. Is that true?
Yeah, it's about 3 to 1. It's about 3 to 1, general versus primary.
Yeah, and I see, and thank you for this call, by the way. It's a very astute observation. Going forward, what I see is people now being forewarned, and I think you're going to see one of two things. I think you can see two things happening. Number one, the extremists are going to come. They're going to start moving towards the center because they're going to find it very difficult to win general elections. And part two of that is I believe that you're going to see a greater participation in primaries now that people actually see and experience the difficulty of selecting extremist candidates. So I think eventually this works itself out. It's very interesting because the American electorate seems very resilient, and they usually figure this out. Sometimes it takes them a little longer.
Mario, I would comment on two of your comments. I think the so-called fringe parties are actually digging in. I mean, look at the situation in Washington. They're not budging from their position, and they feel that's the right thing to do. They're principled. I mean, give them that. These are their beliefs, and they're not about to compromise their beliefs. And we've watched this process unfold in the last month or so, where they had a definite impact. That so-called the bill went from $3.5 trillion down to what?
1.7.
1.75. That's a movement because they stood their ground. I think that I think there'll be more primaries. I think because it's a way in. Once you've got that nomination, you do have an advantage, and it's pretty hard to break in. You were a chairman. It's pretty hard, and I'm a journalist, and I'm looking from 100 feet in the air. But you were on the ground. It seems to me it's pretty hard for a new person with no name, with no experience, that wants to get involved in politics. Like, for instance, Suzanne Timbrook in the district we're going to talk about. A newcomer has a difficult time just getting through that establishment, because the establishment, if it's doing its job, already has a bunch of candidates lined up.
New York State's a very difficult state to run to office in.
And it's designed to protect the majority parties.
And incumbents.
And incumbents, it's right. It's an incumbent re-election system, and it's hard to break into, but you can break in. You can come in that side door where only 15. The previous caller asked about the ratio of primary voting, 15%, to general election voting, 45% or 50. So you can get in with a relatively small number. Your small cadre can get you through a primary.
But what I'm saying is, and I think that what we're going to see is a race like the Donaldson race. Should that happen in 2 years to another Democratic candidate getting challenged by a socialist, I think the people are going to say, "Oh boy, we better,
pay attention."
Yeah, we better pay more attention. I think you're going to see a little increase in the mainstream folks coming out and voting in primaries. And one of the things which I think is really terrible in New York is that we don't have open primaries, because a lot of states have open primaries. And you can go in and you help the Democrats pick their candidate. You help the Republicans pick that candidate. And by doing that, you actually have more mainstream people on the ballot, and you kind of stay towards the center. You have people on the ballot running on the Democratic line that had some Republican support, and you have Republicans running that had some Democratic support, and all of a sudden you have a much more of a coalition selecting the candidates. So
that's an odd thing for a former Republican chairman to say.
I know, but when you see these results, they're scary. When you see like the Donaldson race, in my opinion, totally scary. That guy's not Donaldson, but the socialist. I mean,
Erner.
Yeah, Erner. I mean, forget it.
Well, we're gonna touch down in some detail on that race, which I wrote about on Monday, or was it yesterday? Yesterday I wrote about that.
Yeah. So now, while we're on long distance races, could I bring up another race that is tremendously interesting, and that is the race for Virginia governor.
Oh wow!
Oh my God!
I think New Jersey governor is similar.
I mean, Biden won Virginia by 10 points, and I think McAuliffe is going down. I mean, this guy just shot off his toes with this education stuff. He doesn't think parents should be involved in what their children are being taught. I mean, what planet did this guy fly in from? And there's nothing. I listen. I've seen this in action. I have 5 children. There is nothing worse than a mother scorned, and when that's like hitting a hornet's nest with a golf club, which I did.
You couldn't hit a hornet's nest with a golf club.
No, I paid the price. I never saw the nest. Looking for a golf ball, I hit a hornet's nest, and I'm telling you, he's got a hornet's nest of moms and
soccer moms. They used to call them.
Soccer moms, whatever they're calling them, who want to tear this guy's head off. And I wouldn't.
Well, I wonder if this is a reflection of the Buffalo experience, where you bring in all your top guns, and they've done that in Virginia. I think the president was down there, wasn't he? Biden.
Biden was there. Harris was there.
Yeah.
Obama was there.
Yeah, that's the biggest gun.
Okay. Now, here's what's interesting. Okay. Biden called this guy a racist at one point in time.
Yeah.
And all of a sudden,
Which one did he call a racist?
Years ago, when he was in, they had some issues and. Oh yeah, but besides, we're going to leave that out of it. But the thing is, this is going, in my opinion, this is also a referendum on Biden to some extent. Now, again, McAuliffe dug this grave, and whether he can climb out of it in time for the election, I have no idea. But
well, let's localize this thing. Do you think that this trickle down, as it were, or trickle up, is going to be reflected on Tuesday here? Is there kind of a general discontent of gas prices, inflation, the things that really hit home are promulgated by Washington, and if it's a Democrat in this case, Trump certainly paid a price for everything he did, and Biden seems to be, at least during the campaign, was pretty much Teflon. Do you see this? I think I do.
I think
there's a lot of discontent out there.
I think that you actually have hit on a really sore subject here, because it's one thing to have an issue with education. You vote on the school budget once a year. You take your pound of flesh or whatever, and you move on. But I fill up my gas tank. Mm-hmm. Once a week, all right? And I got to tell you, 2 things. Each time I go to fill up my tank, the price went up $1 or $2.
Or more.
And then I get the bill on the back end of this thing, and I'm thinking to myself, wait a second. I'm paying over $1 a gallon right now, more than I did last year on Election Day. When Biden was elected, gas was $1 a gallon less than it is now.
I think it was $2.16.
Yeah, and there's no question. And right now it's $3.50.
Yeah.
So there's no question about how that happened, because the first thing this pea-brain did was cancel the pipeline. And then they started canceling drilling on this and stopping that. You can't do this. And essentially the companies are like, you know what? We're not drilling anymore, because this is, we don't want to deal with this. And so they just walked to the sidelines. And I mean, we're sitting on the states of North Dakota, South Dakota, Montana, and a portion of a district in Canada are sitting on a reserve that has 1 trillion gallons of oil.
Wow.
And it's still in the ground, okay? And I'm still paying now.
This is pretty much shale, though, isn't it? Fracking.
I'm not sure if that's all shale up there. I think they have some nice reservoirs. But the point is, who's going to get blamed when you're going to buy gas and you're paying $50, $60, $70 to fill up your car with gas? That's money that you can't go out and buy a cigar. That's all your disposable money, your fun money. You go to a movie, whatever. And people are, I don't know, I think it's early in the process. I would say in 2022, it's going to be a debacle for the Democrats. They're heading for the exits like you can't. I wouldn't be surprised if our local congressmen, the Hudson Valley guys, decide they want to take a job someplace or get
Is this wishful thinking on your part, Chairman?
No, I'm sorry. I said I wouldn't be surprised.
Okay.
Because you've got to get very, very nervous about Biden's poll numbers. 37%.
Yeah.
I mean,
in his first year.
in 10 months.
Yeah.
This guy is a walking, wrecking crew. And
he's an albatross.
Yeah, I mean, and if he can't pull this Virginia election, so let me kind of segue into something else. They kept saying, we've got to get this bill done before he goes to Europe.
That was nonsense.
That is total baloney. They've got to get this bill done before McAuliffe loses in Virginia. They needed to get this done before Election Day, because if McAuliffe goes down in flames in Virginia, they're going to be running for the exits. He won't be able to get a ham sandwich passed in Congress. Nothing. And she knows it. And Pelosi knows this, and Schumer knows this, that those of their party members who are weak and vulnerable, they're going to take this agenda and walk away from it.
Do you include our congressman in that weak and vulnerable crowd?
Let me say this. I've done some research on this district. Now, again, we don't know how this district is going to end up, and this reapportionment thing in New York has been scandalous, and so we don't know what's going to happen. But if Molinaro and Delgado were to run in this current district, here's what I would say. Molinaro beat Cuomo in every county in that district except Ulster. And Delgado won Ulster by 19,000 votes. Cuomo only beat Molinaro by 5,000 votes in Ulster County. That's a 14,000 vote swing of people who voted for Molinaro in Ulster County and voted for Delgado.
Or voted against Cuomo.
Yeah. So the point is that right now, if I'm Delgado, I'm getting my resume ready. All right, because he's a bright, talented guy.
Yep.
Now, by the way, I can't attribute this to anybody in particular, but rumor has it that he's taking a look at the potential run for Attorney General. That he's got $5 million, in his war chest that he can use. See, the thing about a federal war chest is you can use a federal war chest in New York State. You can't use a New York State war chest in a federal election, or all of it in a federal election, because New York State allows corporate contributions. The federals do not. So he raised money on a federal level, no corporate contribution.
Hey, let's not get too far into the political weeds here, but if we're going to talk about campaign financing, which is as scandalous as reapportionment, and they kind of go together.
Yeah.
There's a lot of ways to get money into a candidate without a fingerprint left as to where it came from. This dark money. Look at the Clegg campaign.
I cannot admit to anything. Oh, I'm sorry.
Oh, I'm
We're
sorry.
talking about me.
Yeah, and you were a practitioner of this evil art. But I think if Delgado runs for higher office, which is still very early speculation, that I don't think he'll have. And if an upstate congressman is, I think you're talking about Attorney General.
Yeah.
This is a prize. This is a plum. This is one heartbeat away from the governorship. The last two governors, I think Spitzer and Cuomo, came out of that office, and maybe the next one in James.
Well,
He won't have he may have a problem, I think, in that area versus New York City.
Well, he's going to have a lot of competition.
Okay.
For Attorney General, because the dynamo, Zephyr Teachout, announced within hours after James made her announcement in the morning, I believe, or early afternoon, that she was running for governor.
And Zephyr popped up how long?
Zephyr, I don't even know if it was within an hour. Zephyr had a conference where she threw her hat in the ring for Attorney General, and her motto is, I can lose any race. And so I find her as refreshing as a summer breeze, even though she loses all the time. I think she wants to set the record for
losing.
Most diverse number of losses.
Well, she's lost for Congress and she's lost for governor.
Yeah, so she's got.
Now she can go for Attorney General.
Now she wants Attorney General. Who knows? It might be controller the next time. Because she can run the table, as they say in pool. As they say in billiards, she's trying to run the table. She wants to run for every office in New York State and lose every time.
Well, I encourage her to run. I like Zephyr.
Well, I am happy that you're in Zephyr's corner. I would, and then there are some folks from the city also who have ambitions. I believe there's I think it's either the county exec or the Congressman Swazi from Nassau County. I think he might have some ambitions. And what's going to be interesting about that is maybe some of the racial overtones or undertones, because
you mean talking about Swazi?
Yeah, and what I'm talking about is if Letitia James looks like she's winning the primary, then she's going to need some support. They're going to try and balance this ticket out.
Are you going to trot this out again?
What?
So the upstate balance.
Well,
are we headed back to Ulster?
I think she will have an
She
upstate.
needs a running mate.
Running mate. I think she'll have an upstate running mate. And I don't believe it'll be a black person. I believe it'll be
Be a white man.
probably a white.
Oh, we're going to narrow this down now.
Kind of doing just the opposite of what Hochul did. Hochul couldn't have been less transparent when she selected a
State senator.
black male senator
From Harlem.
Yeah, right. And now James, also has to,
Balance.
they have to have a family portrait where, there's one of everybody.
Okay.
And I think she's going to probably be looking for a white male. And I think Swazi might be.
Oh, Swazi, you're looking.
Oh,
at.
yeah, he might.
I thought you were looking at Ryan for a while.
Oh, I think Ryan has been. It's very interesting because I have now kind of given up on trying to find Ryan's political action committee. All right, I'm usually pretty good at this. But this,
then it doesn't
this
exist.
Serve New York or whatever he's calling it is not the same name that he's filed it under. Can't be, because if you go to the State Board of Elections, there is no Serve New York Political Action Committee. So somebody's playing a sleight of hand here. Okay, we're in a game of three-card Monte where you have to figure out what he actually filed.
We'll have to do some old-fashioned journalism here. Investigative journalism. The Ryan administration, I think, has demonstrated it's pretty much a one-way PR machine. Stuff goes out, and requests may come in, but they don't seem to be responded to at all.
Yeah.
I think I'll put this on my to-do list. Simply ask him, hey, what's the name of this? It's got 3 or 4 or 500,000 money's coming into this account. Maybe even more that he's using to promote himself around the state.
Yeah.
And making appearances at dinners and what have you.
Good point.
And so what's the deal? And if we don't hear back, which I think is probably 50-50, well then we have reason to be concerned about this shadow fundraising.
I can't find it. But I think the whole purpose of it was, okay, so when if you look at the big picture here, I mean, he can't move out of Ulster County and up anywhere without some good street creds as a diehard liberal progressive.
Well, he's got that.
Whatever. Oh yeah, I mean, look.
He's got the creds.
Yeah,
but then he has to get the word out.
Yeah, and then he's also got to get some. And my thing was he was sending that money out to Syracuse and sending money to New York.
Yeah.
And they're not. If he wanted to run for Congress, those people can't help him. The only way those folks can help him is if he's got some sort of statewide ambition.
Yeah.
And that's I mean,
That's a good analysis.
Yeah, you gotta you just follow the breadcrumbs. Who knows what happens?
You're on your game this time, Kat. Maybe we could move around a little bit. We've got
and folks, in the second hour, I think we're going to do all the propositions.
Yeah,
and just keep everybody up to speed.
Folks, can you for once, since we've been on the radio now for what
a year,
a year and a half,
a little over a year.
A little over a year here, and I think we've gotten 14 calls. In that year.
Well, no, you get more calls than that. Some of them, they get screened, and if they're not intelligent questions, I click them.
We like to deal with unintelligent questions because
I'm not going to waste your time.
It's our level.
Okay, we're at 331-9255. 331-9255. We want feedback. We want to know what you're thinking. We're tired of talking.
Yeah.
Let's go. Give us some.
Come on, you guys are tired of talking. I see you guys walking in Hillside Acres, and I see the mouths going. You guys are constantly talking.
We're preparing for the next show.
Yeah, well, that's good. I wish all the hosts would do that. They do. So.
Hey, there was an item in the Freeman list this week about turnout for early voting.
Oh, yeah.
Which was, I think, kind of funny because the turnout looks like to be about 2%. Of the overall enrollment. There's a lot of people enrolled to vote in this county, about 120,000.
Wow.
And if you're bragging about 1,800 people turning out on the first day or the second day, I've my personal view is, although I was tempted, I rode by my polling place yesterday, and I really didn't have too much to do, and I thought, gee, maybe I'll just pull in and vote. I won't have to vote Tuesday. And then I thought, that was like yesterday was Thursday. Something might happen over the weekend.
Sure.
Something might break.
Yeah.
Some revelation or some late minute attack by one candidate or the other. And on my blog this morning, one of my regulars wrote in and commented. His comment on my blog was, "I wish I'd seen that before I voted."
Oh, wow.
So that might have influenced his vote in this case.
Yeah.
And I think early voting is a convenience. I'm in favor. I think you are too. I can't speak for you, Mario, but I'm in favor of the more people who vote, the better. The better representation.
Absolutely.
And early voting is one way to do that. But I think people need to take it under advisement that they once their vote is cast.
Yeah, they're making
Although some places
without,
Some places let you do a redo. I voted Thursday. It's Tuesday today. I want to change my vote. I don't think it's applicable here.
Yeah.
But in other places, you can do that. Maybe that's an idea. It's a little complicated, affidavits, what have you, etc. But I am not an advocate of general early voting. But
I kind of like the tradition, when when my kids were home, I took them to the polling place with me on election day, and we went through, they came in the booth with me, we would show them, we would make decisions, and they would pull the levers, and it was a lesson in civics.
Yeah.
I encourage people, if we're worried about young people not voting, part of that is on us as parents, because we need to incorporate that into their way of life. We need to make that something important to them, and if they know it's important to us, it becomes important to them. So, shame on us for not,
Yeah, I agree with you. I am guilty on that count. I didn't do that with my kids. Although they're both active voters, they pay attention. They know what's going on. Pretty much did it on their own. Although they may have heard me grumbling around the house about politics and stuff like that. I didn't.
Stop. You were covering.
Yeah, I was in the service. When I turned 21. In those days, you had to be 21 to vote. I got a ballot. I was overseas, and I got a ballot 2 weeks after the election. So it didn't really matter. But I looked at it, and that was the beginning where I started to really take interest. I looked at the ballot. It was a ballot, and it had all the local names on it. I didn't know a single person. I didn't know who my alderman was back home.
Wow.
With my county legislator, and I thought, maybe I ought to pay attention now.
Yeah, there you go.
I was a voter.
Yeah.
You're right, Mario. That's a good point about talking issues with your children, and not necessarily brainwashing them, like we teach morals to our children, which is, I think, where morals should be taught.
You don't have to do any brainwashing. That happens in school. What you need to do is you need to balance the table at home and show them how your decision-making process, occurred, and then have them go to the polls with you and experience. And we have a call. All right, which one of our lousy comments do you want to discuss this morning? Good morning, caller.
Good morning, gentlemen. Good morning. I want to ask a question regarding Hochul versus James for the primary for governor. This is my question. Do you think that Hochul, what kind of high wire walk is she going to have to do? One thing that has really struck me is how she has said, I was out in Buffalo, up in Plattsburgh. I didn't talk to Cuomo all the time. But you're the second in command. How could you be that separated? And when I've seen the interviews, especially initially when she stepped in as governor, she would give this response. No one would question it. And now that she's going to be in the primary, and particularly with James, running against James, isn't a simple thing to say, are you saying you were that detached from what was going on? And I just think that I don't know how Hochul answers that. And the other part of my question for you is, does Cuomo have the potential to just weigh in to say yay or nay about this point that Hochul's making? But do you think that James is going to pretty much try to attach Hochul to all the mess of Cuomo, given that she was part of the administration? Do you think that could be James's tactic when going against her? And that's my question.
Great question.
I think it's thanks, caller. She is walking a high wire act. She really can't have it both ways. She can't be. Her strength is what should have been as the number two person. She was in every meeting. She was a key advisor. She was the lieutenant governor. She was his right hand person, and therefore responsible by association with the decisions of the Cuomo administration. On the other hand, Cuomo's sins are personal, and I don't think James can attach any of that. But I think what it speaks to is her experience as lieutenant governor. I think she was pretty much a cheerleader, which is the role of most lieutenant governors. Cuomo's father, Mario, really chafed in that role. He just felt like a stooge, and he didn't step out of it. He played the role of lieutenant governor, which is water boy or water person. So there is that, but if these two run on their experience, Cuomo or Hochul will have been governor for over a year by the time the next election is held. Almost 2 years. So she has the opportunity, and I think she's taking that. She seems to be pretty aggressive, innovative governor, and
I have a question.
And she'll run on that. I'm sorry, Mario has a question. Go ahead.
No, a question of you. It was reported at one point in time that Cuomo tried to dump her.
Yes, the last election.
After that second term, he excluded her from just about everything. Do you think that plays into it at all?
I think, yeah, sure it can. She can easily separate herself from Cuomo, but I don't think Cuomo for his faults did a lot of positive things during his 9 years in office, but I don't see how she can take a lot of credit for that. If in fact, which I think is obvious, that she was not part, at least in the second term, was not part of that team. She helped get him elected the first time, and then they had a falling out, and as you say, Cuomo just cut her off, but that's what he was known for.
Yeah, I think that Letitia James prevails, and I think Letitia James prevails because it's very difficult to beat out a New York City Democrat.
Yes.
In a statewide election.
I think every statewide officer is from New York now.
Yeah,
right?
Yeah. I mean, and Kathy Hochul seems like a nice woman. She seems.
I think she's very competent.
Yeah, but I don't think it's going to matter at all to the folks. The diehards in New York City.
For all the prejudice, and I use the word very broadly, that we upstaters have against New York City. I mean, politicians run against New York City around here every 2 years.
Yep.
It's just the same in New York City. I was amazed. I went to a rally. I went to Chinatown. A little that
right
section of Manhattan. Yeah, they
right
are
next to each other.
And I saw Shelley Silver up close, and he was campaigning. It was some kind of a Chinese New Year's or something parade.
Yeah.
And he was campaigning, and I could hear it from people about upstaters being like some foreign country, and vice versa.
Absolutely.
But unfortunately for Hochul, the real numbers are in New York.
Yeah. We have another caller. Good morning, caller. Thank you.
Hey, fellas.
What would you like to discuss?
My name's Alex, longtime listener, big fan. Just wanted to bring up something that you guys were talking about with drawing the lines between like AOC India Walton. Also, Eric Adams is another one. Where if you look at these races where there's like an incumbent who's kind of an old machine guy, and then there's a bunch of challengers who are, maybe there's a challenger who's like way more progressive, has DSA support. If you look at the districts that go for each candidate, it's very interesting. The socialist always gets the most gentrified districts that have like the new residents coming in that have more radical politics. And then it's always the old machine guy. If there's still working class people left in the city, the old machine guy will clean up in those districts. So I see, when you're trying to handicap Phil Erner versus Donaldson, it really is a question of how many people really moved in here that are going to vote for Erner. Because I don't see any new transplants who are going to support Erner. I don't see any new transplants that are going to support Donaldson. I think most of Erner's support is going to come from these new people. The only question is how many of them came into that district, and are they going to turn out?
Yeah.
Good point.
That's it.
Yeah. No. Good observation. What I've noticed is that these folks come here because of the desirability of living in Kingston and not having to put up with the debacle of living in New York City or other metropolitan areas. They just love the environment, and then they vote as if they still lived in New York City or these other places, and they want to transform Kingston back into
where they came from.
And to me, it's just insane.
I'll say it. Yeah, and I'll say this too, that I'm no Donaldson fan, and I would argue that Donaldson ushered in a lot of the policies that made it so easy for so many people to move in here. And ironically, those are the people that are going to probably vote him out of office. But that's the really interesting thing, is that the same thing with Byron Brown. He was very developer friendly, against tenants' rights and all that stuff. So he helped, spur a lot of the gentrification in Buffalo, but then it's the gentrification that's actually going to dump him out of office if he loses.
Do you think Erner's support is from the so-called gentrified people or the kind of street people?
I would say that those are the most likely people to. That'll probably be his strongest base, of these new people coming in who are more comfortable with more radical politics.
And who wouldn't know?
Who wouldn't
know Donaldson from anyone? Yeah. Okay, that's an interesting analysis. We hadn't thought of that angle.
No, thank you. That's
take care.
Great.
Thank you.
Great thoughts. Appreciate it.
What do you got? About 10 minutes? 10 minutes to go. Okay.
Another one? Do we have another call?
No, we don't. But that was a good caller right there.
Yeah, very interesting.
Yes.
And thank you, caller.
See, that's what screening calls does. See, aren't you happy I screen calls now?
There you go. Anyway, getting back to that point, how are you handicapping this District 6 race in the city of Kingston?
Well, the three candidates are, the Democrat is Phil Erner, the Republican candidate is Suzanne Timbrook, and the Good Government candidate is Dave Donaldson. I wrote about this in my column, which is not to quote myself, but and it can change in the next 3 or 4 days. I think for Timbrook to be a factor, if not a contender, she has to get into the. Let me just back up again. The winner can statistically win with 35 or 36 or 37% of the vote, but that doesn't happen very often in three-way races where you get an almost even divide between all the candidates. And I don't think that's going to happen. I think Timbrook is running at a distinct disadvantage because of her party designation. There's only there's 2,400 Democrats, around 1,500 independents, and 700, in round figures,
Yep.
Republicans. So her base is much narrower.
Yep.
She would have to take almost all the Republican votes, and then a good slice of the independent voters. Erner has his own issues in that he is, as his caller referred to him, as a radical. I think that's a fair assessment. He's definitely very far left in a city, if not a district, that's more moderate to progressive. So he's outside what would be, I think, the mainstream. His showing in the primary was it was only 15% of the vote that came out,
Yeah.
and he got I think 54 or 55% of that. It was a fairly significant win, but on a very limited number.
So if 15% came out and he got 55% of that, he got about 8% of the total vote.
Yeah, and they'll no doubt stick with him. Now, Donaldson was blindsided, I believe, in part because of his own. He'd been skating along for a number of terms.
Yeah.
And he didn't
How
really.
can this upstart possibly be?
Yeah. Who's this guy? I had trouble spelling his name for a while. I kept calling him Ernest, which he is. But Donaldson is, he's locked and loaded. Whether like the old war horse, he can respond to the fire this time. I think he will. I think my take is that in what could be a close election between the major party candidates, and this is not to downplay necessarily Tim Brooks' candidacy. I found her an impressive candidate.
Yeah.
I thought that she probably should have run for alderman, but she had a friend who was running in that district, and so out of courtesy, she chose another path. But the people who didn't vote in a primary, which was most of them,
85%.
85% of the people who didn't vote at all in the primary, a lot of them are Donaldson supporters, and they understand. My job is to talk to people and listen to people. They understand his foibles. The fact that he really hasn't. He's probably done the job in the legislature, and he's pursued his own policies rather vigorously and in the front pages of the papers, but he hasn't done his homework at home. He hasn't.
Yeah.
He has just let it skate. I think he's kind of taken his voters for granted. He won't do that again.
Oh, no, that's for sure.
Although this might be his last term. But so my call in that race is Donaldson by a few points. I think he might get to 40%.
I don't even think it gets called that night. I think
That's entirely possible.
Yeah, I think it's going to be close enough that we will not know until after the absentee. I think that race has the potential to go
To court?
to absentees.
Maybe court.
Who knows? But definitely. And the thing that intrigues me about Mrs. Timbrook, and I think I agree with you, she is a well-educated, solid candidate. She's an independent, and I think between the Timbrook name and the fact that she's an independent, even though she's on the Republican line, I think she will draw some Democratic votes.
Okay.
Just family, 6 kids teaching at the school. A lot of youngsters probably had her for, I think she teaches math?
Yeah, higher math.
Yeah. So, a lot of folks either know her because their children went to Kingston High School. She was their teacher. They had a teacher conference with her. Who knows? But over the years, she has touched a lot of families. And
it's kind of a Jack Finch.
Yeah, and so I think.
So you think she's more competitive than maybe I do?
I actually think that Erner finishes
Third?
Yeah, third, and with maybe 20 or 25%, because he's got a base of about 8%. They came out strong. Maybe he can triple that, in the general election, because there are folks who just vote on the Democratic line and that's it. They don't even look past that.
Yeah, there is that. And I think he's feeding into a good deal, which we talked about at the top of the show, a good deal of anxiety and frustration among a lot of people, not just the poor, the more so-called working class people.
Yeah.
We're all working class in a sense. That his candidacy will appeal to them. I give him a little more strength than say 24.
Well, if folks are not happy with Donaldson, and they have a choice between Erner and Timbrook, most of them know Timbrook. Very few know Erner. And that also may play out. I don't know how the dynamics of this race are really extremely fascinating.
Not to rehash, but I'm still a little annoyed with Erner not coming on this program 2 weeks ago.
Oh, yeah.
And then to compound that, asking for equal time. Sorry, Erner, you had your equal time. There are some that feel, and I don't disagree, that Erner is a man or is a candidate in search of a pulpit, and that if he gets into the legislature, he will be the rebirth of Attilio Contini.
Yeah, the modern version.
The modern
version of Attilio.
With a bit more edge.
32-1 votes.
Yeah, old 32-1 Attilio from Rosendale, who played that thing for 18 years. I mean, it worked. and whether he'll be he has a list of issues that housing and rents and things like that he'll want to address. Pat Ryan, by the way, put out a press release that he will be walking the district probably as we speak with Erner, who is the Democratic candidate.
Pat Ryan is the latest in a long list of Democratic candidates who are terrified of being primaried by a Democratic socialist. They are essentially paying lip service to these folks. Please don't primary me. I'm one of you. I'm one of you guys. I heard now, and I believe that this is public knowledge, but I heard that Kevin Cahill's getting challenged in a primary by a Democratic socialist. Have you heard that at all?
No, but I wouldn't be surprised. I mean, that is the movement.
A woman from Esopus. I don't remember her name. Somebody told me this. I don't even remember where I heard it. But somebody said to me, hey, did you hear? Some woman in Esopus announced she's a Democratic socialist and she's going to challenge Cahill in a primary. Hello.
This is the home of bare bones speculation.
Yeah. Well,
woman. It might be a guy. We don't know yet.
No. This person seemed to know that it was. He gave me the name of the woman. I had never heard of.
Cahill used to be a radical.
I've been living here 6 months.
Cahill used to be considered a left-wing nut, radical. I can't say nut of a radical, and he's as mainstream now among the Democratic parties.
Nobody left-wing enough for these folks.
No.
Nobody is left-wing enough for these crazies.
All right. Well, not to interrupt you guys because you guys are having a great first hour. Let's go to break since we skipped the 7:30 break. Let's take a quick commercial break for our underwriters that support us.
And then come on back, and we got birthdays.
And we got birthdays, so we'll be back in a few minutes, folks.
You're listening to Kingston Community Radio on WGHQ Kingston. On your radio at 920 AM and 92.5 FM. And also online at mykcr.org.
Question: what will you find on all over-the-counter or OTC medicine packages to help you choose the right drug and use it safely? The answer: the drug facts label. This label lists the medicine's active ingredients and purpose, how much to take, and warnings you should know before using it. Remember, even OTC medicines you buy without a prescription can cause side effects you don't want. So follow the information listed on the drug facts label. For more information, visit fda.gov/drug facts label. A message from the U.S. Food and Drug Administration.
Introducing the YMCA. Sure, you know the Y for a swim or a game of hoops, but we're more than that. We're a cause. When you take a jump shot at the Y, someone else is getting job training. Practice yoga as a team practices her leadership skills. We give people of all ages, incomes, and backgrounds a chance to learn, grow, and thrive. So while you might think of the Y as the place for lifting weights, we're also about lifting entire communities. That's the Y. We're so much more. Visit ymca.net/more.
This is the story of Daniel, who was born 2 months early. His lungs weren't ready. His heart wasn't ready. His parents could only hope that one day he would leave the hospital healthy, and they would all live happily ever after. Daniel's is just one of the more than 500,000 stories of babies born prematurely last year. You can help the March of Dimes stop premature birth and bring more babies home healthy. Learn how at marchofdimes.com. Working together for stronger, healthier babies.
Hi, this is Tony Marmo from Norman Staffing, and we've been bringing together employers and job seekers since 1980. If you're an employer and have job vacancies, let Norman Staffing help fill them with permanent or temporary workers. We screen, interview, and recommend the best candidates for your company. We make the employment process easier and faster for you. Please call Norman Staffing for your employment needs at 338-9111, 338-9111, or normanstaffing.com.
Hi, I'm Ruth Quick from town of Ulster. I support Kingston Community Radio, and you should too.
This portion of Kingston Community Radio is brought to you by Ulster Savings Bank. Visit their newest branch, conveniently located at the Ulster Commons Plaza in Lake Katrine. Experience the difference that local community banking offers with the convenience of another great location, easy access, plenty of parking, and a 24-hour ATM. Ulster Savings Bank, invested in community, invested in you. Member FDIC.
All right, folks, good morning. Hugh Reynolds, Mario Catalano back here talking politics 3 days before the election, 4 days before the election. We are covering a wide range of subjects. This hour, we're hoping to do the propositions. We'd like to get into a vigorous conversation about the propositions.
And callers, this is your last shot until 2 weeks from now.
If you got something to say, let's get it on the table. But in the meantime, we have to do something extremely important, and that is do our birthdays. We have to do our birthdays. So, today, October 29th, Friday, October 29th, we have a few birthdays. It says, a very happy birthday greeting to Janet Myam, M-Y-I-M. I think it's Myam. Hope you have a wonderful day. Love you very much. Love, it's either Frank and Evelyn. Love from Frank and Evelyn, Janet. And happy birthday to you. We also have another birthday. Happy birthday to Ethan Kordich, who is 11 years old today. Okay, Ethan, double digits, baby. And love from Mom and Dad. And let's see, those are our two birthdays for today.
No, we just have two?
We only have two.
I just want to wish my son, Robbie, happy birthday. He was 50. Can you imagine? We have 50-year-old children. 50 years old yesterday. Happy birthday, Robbie.
All right, Robbie. Happy birthday to Robbie Reynolds, who also happens to be my attorney, so you better be nice to him.
Mine too.
Yeah. Anyway, all right, so the winner of the famous Boyce Dairy Milkhouse cow pie for October 29th today is Ethan Kordich. What better deal than an 11-year-old winning a cow pie? Okay, baby. Ethan, you can pick up that cow pie. I presume you're not driving yet, so have your parents drive you over to the Boyce Dairy Milkhouse at 62 O'Neill Street in Kingston and pick up that cow pie courtesy of the Boyce Dairy Milkhouse and Kingston Community Radio. And Tomorrow, October 30th, we have a couple of birthdays for October 30th. And it says, wishing you a very happy, blessed birthday, Evelyn Rockendorfer, Rauchendorfer, Rockendorfer. Hope your day is filled with much joy and happiness. I hope, Evelyn, that I didn't butcher your name. It's a beautiful name, and it's love from your children, Kathy, Frank, Stephen, Debbie, and Janet, and all the grandchildren. Well, Evelyn, happy birthday to you. And we also have, please wish a happy birthday to Manfred Kastner from your friends at the Rosendale Seniors. And the winner of the famous Boyce Dairy Milk House Cow Pie for tomorrow, Saturday, October 30th, is Manfred Kastner. Congratulations, Manfred. And that comes to you courtesy of the Boyce Dairy Milk House, Kingston Community Radio, and you may pick up your cow pie at 62 O'Neill Street, the Boyce Dairy Milk House in Kingston. Now let's get on to Halloween. Halloween, Sunday the 31st. We have a couple of birthdays again. Busy couple days. Okay, so we have a happy birthday to a wonderful friend, Gloria Meredith. Bless you, Gloria, from your friend Linda. And Nora Scheer. Your friends at People's Place, Nora, are hoping that you have and enjoy your special day this Sunday, which is October 31st. And the winner of the Boyce Dairy Milk House famous cow pie for October 31st is Nora Scheer. Nora, that comes to you courtesy of the Boyce Dairy Milk House. Your cow pie may be picked up at the Boyce Dairy Milk House, 62 O'Neill Street, Kingston, New York. One other note, next Thursday, the 4th of November, there will be the WGHQ Happy Christmas Fund Radiothon, which will be held on premises at the Boyce Dairy Milk House. And there are gifts for those who make contributions at certain levels. We'd love to see everybody there. You Reynolds and I, you Reynolds and I will be on duty at the 4 p.m. time slot. All of those of the political class who would like to make a contribution during our time slot, you and I will be there at 4 o'clock raising money for one of the greatest causes in Ulster County, the GHQ Happy Christmas Fund. So, Happy Holiday Fund. It goes to all groups, and let's turn out and let's raise some money. And as I said, we'll be there at 4 o'clock, and come on by, say hello, and drop off a check. We'd love to see you. All right, Huey, here we go, baby.
All right, we're off.
Now we're going to get down to the nitty gritty. And
all right, I have before me a sample ballot from this Tuesday's election. This happens to be my own district, which is I live in Ward 3 in Kingston. But on the back of the ballot are 6 proposals that my partner would like to go through. There they are, Kat.
Okay, folks. So the first one is the one that's getting the most notoriety, and that is Proposition 1, which is allegedly amending the apportionment and redistricting process. So it says this proposed constitutional amendment would freeze the number of state senators at 63, amend the process for counting of the state's population, delete certain provisions that violate the United States Constitution, repeal and amend certain requirements for the appointment of the co-executive directors of the Redistricting Commission, and amend the manner of drawing district lines for congressional and state legislative offices. And it asks if that amendment should be approved. Before we get into the specifics, we have a call. Good morning, caller.
Good morning, gentlemen. Earlier you was talking about gas prices and stuff. If people will remember that when Biden was running, he said that he was going to raise gas prices.
Taxes.
And on the early voting, I'm working the polls down here in Newport. Out of 6 days, we've had 337 people.
Wow.
Is that a lot? Or
No.
No, okay.
Because there's 6 days of early voting.
6 days of early voting to have 377 votes.
Okay.
And I tell you what, the one amendment that you guys are getting ready to talk about. That
Please speak into the phone. We can't hear you.
Okay, the one amendment that they are talking about, or you will be talking about, is the same-day registration. My biggest question is, how is all that going to work as far as proof and documentation, and the Board of Elections doesn't even know how they're going to put it in place yet?
Yes, we haven't gotten to that amendment yet. We're talking about Amendment 1 right now. But we will address that amendment in a few minutes. Thank you for pointing that out.
But as always, you guys are doing a great job, and a lot of our Democratic colleagues are going to have to worry about the far left.
The what?
A lot of our Democratic colleagues are going to have to worry about the far left, like you said earlier.
Yeah.
And,
Absolutely, absolutely, and thank you again. We appreciate your listening to the show, and tell all your friends about us. We the more the merrier. We're here to help.
I always do it. Now, you guys have a great day. Have a good rest of your show too.
Yes, thank you. Thank you. So let's go over this, because to me, this is the one amendment that should be a solid no.
Yeah.
This is the one where they threw everything but the kitchen sink in there, when they should have separated these issues out. And what they tried to do is sneak a couple of dogs in, with the kitty litter, so to speak. And
horrible mixed metaphor.
Yeah. But somehow they tried,
Dogs and kitty litters.
to slip a couple of really bad propositions.
Plus, it's pretty much open-ended. They can do almost anything once this thing's approved.
This thing is a disaster. So, folks, here's the deal. On this issue alone, both you and I agree that this thing should go down in flames. And this is a terrible issue. So let's talk about it. First of all, it requires fixing the number of senators at 63. I don't have a problem with that.
No.
You want to fix it, that's great. And that way you can have no shenanigans. Of course, the Republicans played some games in that regard, and it went from 60 to 61. They were just trying to maintain their majority. And I don't have a problem with that portion of it. That is the only thing in this amendment that's reasonable. And that should have been a separate amendment, period.
My understanding when this was being discussed in the spring was that was the amendment. And then the kitchen sink showed up.
Yep. Of course, then the snakes come right out, and they're in there, So, and then here's the other thing. There's another part of this that pushes up the final plan to November 1st, because they never put a deadline in for the final plan. And so it's too late for this year. But going forward, they want the final plan in place for November 1st.
You mean the reapportionment plan?
Yep, yeah. And then before the election, because that's very important. And that also is beneficial in this plan, because you want to give people enough time to file. You want to give people enough time to get signatures, to fill out all the paperwork. And so the earlier the plan's in place, because one of the things they can do is delay the damn thing, and you don't even know where the districts are. So that's also important. But after that, it also requires that inmates be counted at their previous place of residence.
Yeah.
That hurts Ulster County because we have prisons. However, that's already in place. What they want to do is put it in the Constitution. Okay, I can get along with that. And then
So wait a minute. Do you support the prisoners being counted in Ulster? You think that's a benefit?
I think it's a benefit to Ulster because we get our districts are
compensated by the federal government based on census and all that.
Yeah.
But don't you have people from convicts, felons from Brooklyn voting in our elections?
I don't even think they vote, can they?
There's a movement toward that.
Oh, okay. Yeah, so let them vote where they live. I don't have a problem with that. Okay. Now they want here's where it gets very seedy, okay? Because the legislature has never been happy about losing their ability to control the process. So this is where they snuck in all of, and notice right at the end, first they give you the nice pretty stuff, and then hidden under the chicken wings are, the,
feathers,
all the, the vermin.
Yeah.
So one of the things they want to do is, to remove the ability. So the way it works right now, the majority party appoints 4 members to the commission, the reapportionment commission. Mm-hmm. The minority party appoints 4 members to the commission.
And then they elect
And those 4 members elect joint executive directors. Okay? So that kind of balances things out because each is going to pick. Right. This amendment removes the ability of the minority appointees to select the two co-executive directors. Only the majority 4 members select those 2 people. So immediately it becomes, instead of 5 and 5, it becomes 6 and 4.
I think there's a quick and easy answer solution that's not going to be considered. Take the politicians out of it. They'll kick and scream to be removed. Let say a high court, the state court of appeals, which I think has 7 judges. Who are generally bipartisan. They're appointed by different governors for life. I believe there's a life terms. They ostensibly don't have any political influence. They can go by the numbers. They have computer setups now where you can find a guy hiding under his bed, and just reapportion by population. Not by Democrats or Republicans, or if you want to remove somebody, or jury rig the system to keep your majority, as you mentioned with Republicans. Democrats are perfectly capable of doing that also. Take the politics out of it, and the hell with, pardon my expression, the hell with this amendment. This just reinforces their power.
Yeah. Oh yeah, and that's the other thing. So the way they set it up originally, that we voted for, and by the way, and we put through, even though they've done everything they can to
Subvert it.
not abide by that amendment. Right now, if one party dominates the legislature, okay, there's
As the Democrats do now.
yeah, and they don't get 7 members of the commission to agree on a plan. The plan that the legislature then puts forward has to be approved by a two-thirds vote. So what that does is it also gives the minority a little influence on the final plan. They want to change it. This amendment will change that so that if they don't get 7 votes, that it can be a simple majority approves the new plan.
Yeah, it's 4 and 4, isn't it?
No, it's there's 10 people.
There's 10 people.
There are 4 appointees, and then the 4 appointees select 2 more appointees.
Okay, you had mentioned
yeah,
that.
if you don't get the 7 votes, which is almost impossible to get,
It's a high threshold.
now it goes to a simple majority, and of course, that avoids any minority influence. So the League of Women Voters
Yes, what do they say?
have come out very strongly in opposition to this because it essentially said it strips the minority party of any influence whatsoever in the reapportionment process. And that is not and was not the intent of the original amendment to the Constitution that we passed years ago.
So we're on the side of angels here.
You and I are all over this, and we say no one should vote for this amendment. This is a sneaky, cynical attempt to essentially have one party control in New York State, and one party control, I don't care if it's all the Republicans, I don't care if it's Democrats, it's not healthy. Not healthy. So please, let's all just press or circle no on the back. Okay, amendment number 2 is the right to clean air, clean water, and a healthful environment. This seems so innocuous on the base. So the proposed amendment to Article 1 of the New York Constitution would establish the right of each person to clean air and water and a healthful environment. What could be?
How can you oppose that?
Well, I don't oppose it necessarily.
You're against clean air, aren't you?
No. I can tell you, but I can tell you what this is about. This is not about clean air. This is not about clean water. Here's what it's about. This is already guaranteed to us, okay? However, what isn't guaranteed to us is our ability to sue New York State or any municipality if you think you don't have clean air and clean water. This one was put into the group by the trial attorneys.
I was just going to say that.
Because
trial attorneys.
When they passed this, and Pennsylvania has this, there are 4 states that have this. When Pennsylvania passed this and codified it in the Constitution, lawsuits all over the place. Now, will it increase the cost of doing business? Will it increase our taxes? Probably. However, I'm still not going to be against keeping government honest in terms of providing us with clean air, clean water, and a clean environment. So, yeah, the noble side of me says, really cool, get it in the Constitution, let's codify it, but let's also understand why it's going in there. It's going in there, again, to potentially enrich the legal class. Because the lawsuits, again, in states where they've done this, the lawsuits have just.
Mario, in your research, you mentioned Pennsylvania, and right across our border in Binghamton is a gigantic fracking operation, and one of the biggest in the United States. other than those western states that you mentioned.
Yeah.
Has there been has there been an upsurge in, to your knowledge, of legal action against that? I mean, the argument against fracking in New York is that it violates the environment.
Yeah. See, again, I don't know the nature, because I got a lot of this information off the League of Women Voters site.
They're pretty succinct in their.
Yeah, I mean, it could probably be. My guess would be that folks were complaining about the fracking and their water, and they could then sue. And up till now, it's very difficult to do that. But once this passes, lawsuits will abound.
It's a sop to the lawyers, you said.
So, yep.
So we're for that.
We're for this because.
But we're going to pay a price.
And whatever. But here's the thing. In my opinion, it also keeps local governments and state government honest. And I think that's beneficial.
That's a good thing. Okay.
Always beneficial. Okay. Proposition 3. Eliminating the 10-day advanced voter registration requirement. The proposed amendment would delete the current requirement in Article 2, Section 5, that a citizen be registered to vote at least 10 days before an election, and would allow the legislature to enact laws permitting a citizen to register to vote less than 10 days before the election. So this one is kind of a mixed bag, because you want to encourage people to vote. No question about that. Every democracy relies upon people voting. The big rap on this one is, and the concern by the League of Women Voters when they said what was the pros and the cons. Their opinion was the pros were encourages more people to vote by eliminating advanced registration. It's also a positive because it'll allow the Board of Elections to update their voting rolls, because somebody may have been removed from the voting rolls for some reason.
Well, failure to vote for 3 or 4 elections will get you off.
Okay, so they said that's a positive. Their negatives are it will reduce the ability to confirm voters' identity and their living locations. And they said it could lead to people voting in multiple sites, but that depends on the legislature. So what they're saying is it doesn't guarantee that there's going to be cheating, but the amendment doesn't call for any type of strict protocols to be put in place to prevent somebody from walking, from who lives in New York City, from arriving in Ulster County, giving an address and saying, I want to vote here.
Well, can't they check that after the election, particularly?
Well, they might be able to check it after the election, but we don't have the manpower. I think both of our election commissioners, believe it or not, were against this.
Okay.
Yeah. It was in the paper yesterday. I can't remember, but
I missed that.
Very surprisingly, our election commissioners agreed on almost unanimously on these election laws that the problem with this one is it allows the legislature to now create whatever terms they want. I don't necessarily have a problem with same-day registration other than the fact that there's no way to verify anything on the same day. And now you'd have to put that ballot aside. It would require some research. You would hope that whatever that person said panned out. We don't seem to have an ability to figure out if a person has voted in more than one jurisdiction. I don't know, we're not able to track that. It happens all the time. I have somebody in Columbia County, I remember the last election, was arrested for voting in New York City and Columbia County. and actually fined. So,
Well, given, the pros and cons, given the possibility or the likelihood that more people will vote if they can just walk it like you walk into a drugstore, where you can walk into an election polling place and vote. They have that ability now. If you walk in and you can fill out an affidavit, you sign it. It's got your name on it. It's a legal document. And if you're cheating or voting twice or lying on the thing, there are consequences. I think they're felonies. I think in the Columbia County incident, the person was accused
technically, I'm actually in favor of this. However, I'm very concerned about the ability of this legislature to ensure that
against fraud.
Yeah. I just think the absolute most heartbreaking event is when somebody works hard, runs for office, and is cheated out of a fair election. I think that's a really serious situation. I'm not sure that this legislature right now has the inclination to prevent that. I'm just not sure, because
it is a concern. Yeah.
Yeah, and so I have mixed feelings on this one.
So we're giving this a maybe?
I probably will vote no on this because they just haven't specified how they're going to protect the election.
So I'll vote yes, and we'll have a wash here.
All right, good. Now, Proposition 4, authorizing no excuse absentee ballot voting. The proposed amendment would delete from the current provision on absentee ballots the requirement that an absentee voter must be unable to appear at the polls by reason of absence from the county or illness or physical disability. What say you, Mr. Reynolds?
I think if you want to mail it in, you're a registered voter. For whatever reason, you don't either early voting. There's plenty of opportunity to get there physically. And it's the 23rd, I think, of October was when they started this.
Yeah, I mean, you got all kinds.
3 weeks.
Yeah, you got early voting, so you can do it then, and So
I'm not of a mind. I'm not of a mind that anything we do to expand voting is a good thing. There are caveats.
Yeah. So.
But on this one, if a person wants to mail it in, it's legitimate. It's a legitimate vote.
So the league says the pros for this are it increases voting because you wouldn't have to leave home.
Yeah.
Okay.
In this pandemic era we live in, which hopefully will pass.
Oh yeah.
There's a lot of people who don't want to go to a crowded polling place. You may be one of them.
I'm going to be there very early in the morning.
Yeah.
With my N95 on. And now here's what they say are the negatives on this are ballot security. They feel that there are no protections that were included, again, to decrease voter fraud. The more people voting absentee, it's going to affect the ability to announce results. And they all have to be counted 10 days later and the whole works. But they could change that. The votes, they could be counted as they come in. They just don't have to be announced, although, that's hard to do. But certainly,
well, certified.
The previous votes, that are already in-house, they can start counting if they want. But the thing is, so the election commissioners were kind of against this because it just creates a lot more work for the election board.
Now, this is not just our election commissioners. This is collectively across the state.
And then the other thing that was astounding to me is they want to do this without any signature being required. So it's going to be virtually impossible to verify, and so they said there could be the potential for ballot harvesting because they don't have a provision in this to require a signature that you could compare. So I don't know, about this one either. I probably don't have a problem with all of the abilities to vote, that folks should be able to vote without, leaving home when you have an issue. But there are so many ways to vote right now. You got, 2 weeks of early voting. You got voting that day. People, how lazy has this society gotten that they want to be, they don't even want to, something as important as voting, they don't want to leave home. I just think there are too many.
I like to go to the polling places. I see my neighbors. I see the old ladies behind the counter.
Yeah.
With the donuts and the.
Exactly. I used to, when I was the chairman, we'd bring, I'd buy about 15 or 20 pizzas, and I'd drop one off at each polling place for the poll watchers, and that kind of stuff.
That's part of their formal training, that they have to be able to devour 10 donuts in 10 hours.
Okay. Prop 5 is increasing the jurisdiction of the New York City Civil Court.
The less said about that, Mario. To me, that's a purely local issue. I don't know why I'm voting for it at all.
Yeah, and that's nothing. But the interesting one is the Prop 6, which is a dedicated Ulster County proposition, and that says utilization of funds designated for payroll expenses within the county budget. That it says, shall the amendment to the Ulster County Charter approved as proposed, local law number 8 of 2020, prohibiting the transfer of payroll-related expenditures designated for Ulster County employment positions as itemized in the annual budget to other budgetary lines during the course of a year be adopted and become part of the Ulster County Charter. So we already have local law number 8 that prohibits it. They want to codify this into the charter, that if a line is there and it says we're going to employ a dog catcher, and we don't hire that dog catcher, and there's $100,000 sitting there in the dog catcher line, that money can then be moved to some other line to pay for, banners for the county office building. That and the legislature proposed this.
And apparently Ryan signed it. The executive signed it.
Yeah, essentially to prohibit this kind of shenanigans. Now, you've covered county government for a long time, so maybe you can explain to the listening public exactly what these folks are talking about here.
It's kind of a shell game. There's a hundreds of millions of dollars in the county budget. I think the budget this year runs to 700 pages. And there are 1,300 and change, as it were, county employees. And the tactic has been to put what they call blank lines in the budget. So if the dog catcher is in for $100,000, the tax levy reflects that. You got to raise the $100,000 to fund this line, and it sits there. And if for some reason, it may be more cynical than that, maybe they never plan to hire a dog catcher, but they put the line in there, and there's $100,000 sitting around. And then later in the year, it turns out that maybe they need a new truck or whatever, something other than the dog catcher, what they refer to as a payroll line, which is salaries, salaries and benefits too. That's a big number, benefits.
Sure.
And the executive has been free to, as has been the legislature before the executive, to move money out of that line. I believe in the old days with the approval of the legislature, but now the executive can just move it and move it to here or there. It has two effects, or just leave it there. If you leave it there, at the end of the year, there's $100,000 sitting there that hasn't been spent. It becomes part of a surplus, and that holds down the tax levy. And that's essentially a bank. It could be millions of dollars sitting around in unappropriated money. And kind of late in the game, we've had the executive system now for about 12 or 13 years. And I believe Donaldson was a proponent of this as legislature chairman. I think he led this thing. He was there then, and he's watched this thing go by him for 10 years or 12 years. This would restrict the executive's ability to, as Mike Hine would put it, and I think Ryan would, to manage his budget. But it's a kind of a, as I said, it's a kind of a shell game management system. They don't get audited for the year. The legislature rarely returns to the budget. They hand it over to the executive, and he manages it. Well, one of the ways he manages it is to move money around like this. So he'll be restricted. There's some pretty smart people on the sixth floor. If this passes, and I hope it does, they'll probably find another way to move money, to move the shells around, or the P, I should say.
There's so much money
floating around that budget,
and contingency and whatever, but I guess they have to vote on that. So the real what troubles me is that there may be a time when something like this needed to be done. In case of an emergency, having some money available.
That's why you have contingency.
Yeah. Okay. So you got contingency. I thought that the more appropriate way to handle this would have been it has to come back to the legislature for approval, rather than just say you can't do it because you can't even trust us, the legislature, to figure out whether or not this is an honest use of the money. They're like, you can't do it at all. Don't bring it back to us. Figure out some other way to do it. I don't know. It just doesn't sound like good government to me. But I agree with you. I think this should pass because, there are a lot of abuses. And those line items that they have no intention of using, they're still going to be there. Because that's what creates the surplus. That's at the end of the year when they say, oh, we had a surplus. Of course you had a surplus.
Because you built it in to begin with.
Put in an extra 100 jobs that you didn't need.
Yeah.
And that you had no intention of filling.
And that's just cynical to me. It's very deliberate and cynical, and the people are paying for it.
Yeah. Oh, yeah. Which, speaking of, again, you've seen these budgets. We get these zero tax increase budgets, and these guys are swimming in money. And they just absolutely, it just kills them to give any of it back to the taxpayers and reduce taxes.
All right, we're getting to the Molinaro. It's a political ploy, but nonetheless, it's something to consider. He's reduced in his budget presented, I think, yesterday. His Molinaro, as the county executive in Dutchess, has proposed a 10% reduction in the tax levy. This is a far cry from zero budgets, holding the line, keeping all the money, as you put it. And if you are swimming in cash, you should be able to reduce the tax levy somewhat.
It would seem to me that they could maybe they don't have to do 10%. They could do 2%, 3%, whatever it is. It's certainly going to help people on fixed incomes.
Yeah. Donaldson, speaking as legislature chairman 2 weeks ago when we had him on, he pretty much poo-pooed that idea that there was a difference a big difference, he said, in the wealth of Dutchess County. They could afford to reduce taxes by 10%. I don't think so, Dave. I think at least make a gesture. And in fact, they have that ability. The legislature, Donaldson, et cetera, can get up on their hind legs in December 10th or whenever the final budget is voted on and say, no, we don't like a zero increase. We think we can afford 2%. Give it back to the people.
Here's
help pay for some gas, that's for sure.
Here's what's interesting, Huey. There are 23 legislative races this year, okay? Have you heard one issue brought forth by any candidate in this election? Did you hear one of these 23, or there are probably about 40 candidates, have you heard one of these 40 candidates say, I think we should reduce the property tax levy?
No, not a one. And I think it could be, particularly in a close race, it could be a selling point.
Well, my legislator hasn't come to the door yet, but if he does,
none of mine either.
I'm going to ask him why he hasn't come out in favor of a property tax reduction. This is absolutely ridiculous that this county right now, because, and people don't realize this, but years ago there was a struggle because the only sales taxes they collect were money that was spent in Ulster County. Now they're getting a piece
nationwide
of every dime you spend on Amazon or Walmart or whatever. And you go on eBay now and buy something, you pay tax. And the thing is, that money is pouring in.
I think that the next legislature, well, let me say this first. The legislature has flown beneath the radar since its inception.
Yeah.
And these guys just hunkered.
Charter.
Yeah, since the charter, since the executive does all the heavy lifting and the administration and the shifting of the peas around, they're almost invisible. They pop up once in a while, some kind of controversy, usually minor. But I think if in fact, and I don't believe they are, the policy making arm of government, and they all go around door to door saying, I'm a policy maker. Yeah, sure you are. We need to have a serious discussion, not just among the legislature, but among the electorate, about how the sales tax is distributed within the confines. They are limited to the city gets 11%, but still leaves 88% of a burgeoning revenue, and that it doesn't all have to go to county government. Exactly. It can go to support some of the towns. It can go to support the school districts. Yep. People are taxed out of their houses by school taxes, and they can support some of that. They can do a lot of things with the surplus, as it were. Mm-hmm. They can operate pretty well on $100 million worth of sales tax.
Well, think about all the new initiatives this year.
Well, I was getting to that. If they just keep hiring people for $60,000, $70,000, $80,000, $90,000 a year, well, then they'll soak that up. But I know personally, if I have a checkbook full of cash, I have a tendency to spend more than I should, and you've been there too, Mario. Both in your business too, and my business when I was in business. And when you have the money, as Ray Garrigan said, when you have the money, you're smarter. Well, maybe you're not. Maybe you're just a spendthrift.
I have a follow-up question for you. Yeah. What do you make of the mayor of the city of Kingston put himself in for a $10,000 bump, and then also at the same time hiring an $80,000 chief of staff? That would be the first mayor in modern history that needed a chief of staff to help run the city. I mean, the population hasn't increased. The way I see this, it's the same old fill potholes, sewer system, this, that, whatever. And $80,000.
That's a lot of money.
Benefits.
Yeah, it's well over $100,000. I'm not sure I disagree with the idea of a little more executive muscle. The mayor of Kingston, in my long experience, has been pretty much a one man, because there's never been a woman elected, a one-man operation. Now, the operation's $45 million with about 300 or 400 employees. It's a a lot bigger than your business. It's a big business. And to bring in an assistant for quite a bit less. The assistant's making would be making what the mayor himself is making. The mayor makes $80,000 now,
Yeah,
and he's
right.
put in for a $10,000 increase.
Yeah.
I think some of these salaries are out of whack in county and city government. The household income in Kingston, which is a poor town, really collectively, is like less than $60,000 household income, and some of those households there's three jobs involved to make ends meet, and they're paying 30 or 40% of their income. These are tough times. When they read in the paper they're hiring a new person for $80,000, it's just too much money. The idea of giving the mayor, the executive office, some assistance, I don't think I'm against that. But not for $80,000. And I think I would think 50 in round figures would be a number. Specifically, this person would manage the stimulus money.
And it would be under the supervision of the mayor.
Well,
it isn't like they're making any major decisions in their department heads or whatever.
No, the department, I think he's got a pretty good crew of department heads that run their departments more or less efficiently. But you're adding almost $20 million. You're adding a third to the budget itself.
And then what happens to that person after that money's spent?
I think government, the guy, this person's on for a lifetime job. I think it was Mike Hine who said, when you hire somebody for whatever job it is.
That's what he was against. That's why he wouldn't increase the public defender's office.
Yeah.
All right, we have a call.
Okay.
Good morning, caller. And thank you.
Hi, good morning, you and Mario. How you doing this morning?
We're good, thank you.
Brian Waltman calling in. I was listening closely to your show all morning and have been
Crank
enjoying
that up, Mario.
Although I have to say, 2 weeks ago I called in with a specific tax cut proposal as to eliminating the sales tax on articles of clothing and footwear of $110 and less. And when I mentioned it a couple weeks ago, you brought up the fact that you have to look carefully at the 2020 numbers. Well, the 2020 sales tax receipts actually exceeded what was collected in 2019 in Ulster County. Ulster County is seeing year in, year out an upward trajectory of sales tax receipts. In fact, I think that it's projected in 2021 to exceed 35% increase, and the county executive has put in a 19% increase for sales tax receipts in 2022 budget. So what I'm planning to do, if elected, one of the first resolutions I'm going to put in is to eliminate the sales tax on clothing and footwear of $110 and less. Exactly what Executive Molinaro has proposed to do over in Dutchess County. I think it'll have two effects. It's the most regressive tax of all that's collected on people.
Yeah, it is. No question about that.
And it also it will help our retailers at least remain on a level playing field with the retailers that are just across the river from us. So there's one legislative candidate that I've made it. 2 weeks ago I talked about it on your show here, and I'm just reiterating today. It's the central plank in my platform that I want to reduce that tax.
And Brian, for the record, you are a candidate for the legislature from where?
The 7th District, which is in the city of Kingston.
Which wards are those, Brian?
It's wards 6, 7, and 8. It's pretty much Roosevelt Park through the Clifton Avenue Hills area, the 1st, 2nd, 3rd Avenue, all the way down through Pankaki, then over to Rondout.
One of my favorite parts of the city, Brian.
Brian, are you in favor of Brian?
Years in this.
Brian, you mentioned Molinaro's budget. Are you in favor of of a reduction in the property tax based on the income that's coming in?
I'm not prepared to advocate for that yet. I'm certainly completely open to that. I think there's room in the budget, but at this point, I'm just advocating right now to take this first step of the sales tax, and I would definitely, if elected, would look at that very closely in next year's budget. But I wouldn't be adverse to the legislature once they get their report back, their budget analysis back, which I think should be probably sometime in the next week or so. For them, if they're depending on the findings of that and what they see in there,
All right, Brian, we're going to have to let you go. We have one caller coming in, but I think you ought to man up on this one and take a stand.
Yeah.
I beg your pardon?
I think you ought to man up on this one and take a stand. Are you for it or are you against it?
I would be for it. Most likely for it.
Most likely.
Again, I'm the only one that's advocating for a tax.
All right, you got your point across, Mark. Hey,
a concrete tax reduction.
All right. See you on Tuesday.
I think that's manning up pretty good, you.
Yeah, all right. We should have mentioned it. All right, Brian.
It's more than you're getting from anybody else. It's certainly my opponent.
There is that.
Yeah, it's true, Brian. And
exactly. That's the question I get everywhere when I run, as I go door to door. Who is that? That's exactly the question I get. So.
Brian, good luck on Tuesday. Thanks for being a listener.
I appreciate that.
And thank you for stepping up to the plate, because I positively agree that the most egregious tax is that tax on the little guy. The mom and pop are taking their kid in to buy sneakers for $30 and they got to pay a sales tax. Those are the people that we ought to be trying to help, and not necessarily with handouts, but they don't need to pay taxes on all these little clothing items for their children.
If I could just say, no one at $110 or less, we're not talking about extravagant pieces of clothing. We're talking basic needed things in life. That's what we're talking about here at that price level.
Absolutely, and thank you. And like I said, good luck on Tuesday. So, folks.
All right, appreciate it. Have a great weekend.
All right, Brian.
Bye.
That was, folks, that was Brian Waltman. He's running in District 7, did he say? In the city of Kingston. Good man. Anyway, we got a few minutes. We covered the propositions. I got
let's cover one last thing, Mario. I don't think we got to this. The majority of the legislature, despite the demographics and the enrollment disparity, it's been pretty even. 12-11, 11-12, back and forth between the parties. I think the larger question is, does it matter who's in the majority? And if the legislature doesn't become a more proactive branch of government, and not necessarily fight with the executive, but be the kind of oversight and balance that was envisioned in the charter.
Checks and balances.
Checks and balances. Yeah. I am an eternal optimist in this regard. There are new legislators. There will be, I think, 6 or 7 new legislators. We elected a handful of them last time. There's been a big turnover in the legislature in the last 2 elections, counting this one. So there is new blood coming in. And some of the newcomers, Eve Walter in New Paltz, Chris Bell, Waltman's opponent, were very active, proactive in this mental health initiative that Ryan announced and pretty much took credit for in his budget last month. So with this new wave, as it were, of I can see some change. On the other hand, it might not, but it's not going to change with the same. It's not going to change with the same people.
Okay, we got a quickie. Good morning, caller.
Hi, good morning. I just want to back up a little bit when you was talking about the hiring of a chief of staff, City of Kingston. Isn't that almost like what we tried going back with a city manager? I mean, let's bring the mayor's salary down to $30,000. Hire a city manager.
Yeah.
I mean, that's basically.
That's a good point. I hadn't thought of that. Yeah.
He's going to hire somebody to do his job.
Wow.
I mean, born and raised and watched it here. You and I both. You know what I mean? I mean, this is ridiculous. And you mentioned that he makes 80. He makes well over 80,000. He's taken a buyout of city benefits. With the family deal. Yeah. I'd like to see his W-2. I'd like to see his tax return. Why doesn't he put that right on the front page of the Freeman?
Good point, caller. Excellent point.
I wish you'd call sooner, caller. We could have chewed on that one for a while.
And then real quick, but what would happen then if he did have a city staff, chief of staff, and what happened with Mr. Gallo going back? where he passes on. Where does that play with the alderman at large? Stepping in.
Well, let's see if the alderman can have some backbone and say no. I mean, that's the half of the problem. Is it still that budget has to be approved by the alderman, and if they go along with it, shame on them.
Yeah, absolutely. You're not kidding. Like you said, they should be giving some of this money coming back from the COVID and things like that. They should be returning it to the taxpayers. I'm sorry. It's like now, like you said, they got a checkbook full of cash. They don't know how to spend it. It makes me think back to the same time, I hate to bring it up, at 9/11. When 9/11 happened, they were throwing cash at everything.
Yeah.
That was the only way they could solve anything, whether it was up at the reservoir. They were buying planes and trains and dogs.
All right, caller, listen.
Thank you, guys. I appreciate your show.
Yeah, we appreciate your call, but we're running out of time.
Got it. No problem.
All right. Thank you.
It's too bad he didn't call earlier.
I know. That was a
like
great
you
call.
said, you could have
we
grappled
could've
with
chewed
that
on
for
that for a
15 or
while.
20 minutes.
Yeah.
We'll pick it up next time.
Yeah. It's funny because every time you guys are on, we could probably go another hour.
Yeah.
But I know he was getting hungry. And I'm getting hungry too. So you guys did another excellent show today. Good job. I guess I'll see you guys Thursday, 4 o'clock.
We'll see you
We'll
Thursday.
try to save you some chili.
And we'll see you in 2 weeks.
Yes, we'll be back in 2 weeks. Everyone have a great weekend. Happy
11th.
Halloween. And take care. God bless.